The courtroom was so quiet. You could have heard a mosquito tap dancing on the defense table, and I'm sitting there, hands folded, barely breathing, just watching the judge's face as she leans in, eyebrows damn near climbing off her forehead. So, just to confirm, Mrs. Dodd, you attempted to fine this man for a pool fence on his property, which is not in your HOA? The words hang in the air like a punchline. Karen Dodd's mouth opens, but nothing comes out except this awkward wheezing sound. Her lawyer, God bless him, actually shifts his chair away from her, like he's hoping the ground will open up and swallow just her. Yeah, that happened. And if you want to know how a regular guy like me ended up embarrassing the most infamous HOA president in 3 counties, well, let me back up a sec, because you're not going to believe the ride. My name's Marcus Vale, I'm 37, and after years of living stacked on top of strangers in apartment complexes where even your goldfish gets a rulebook, I finally scraped together enough to buy a real piece of the American dream. 2 acres of land, a no-frills ranch house, and, best of all, a saltwater pool big enough to actually swim laps in, not just sit in with your knees pressed to your chest. The cherry on top? No HOA. It was right there in the listing, bold as brass. No. HOA. Restrictions. I'd spent years listening to horror stories about those suburban neighborhood overlords, so trust me, I double-checked every page of the deed. Now, I knew Maple Briar Estate sat right next door, with its rows of identical houses and freshly power-washed driveways. Everyone around here whispered about Karen Dodd, president for life. She treated bylaws like gospel and grass height like a personal insult. My realtor, when I signed the papers, even shot me this look and said, "You're lucky you're not under her thumb." I laughed. Not my circus, not my monkeys, right? You'd think. First 3 weeks were pure bliss. I set up my home office, took conference calls with a view of actual trees, and spent evenings floating in my pool, eyes closed, breathing real air. That lasted, well, exactly 21 days. One sticky Saturday morning, I hear someone clear their throat, like a substitute teacher about to lay down the law. There she is, in all her glory. Karen Dodd, blazer and all, clipboard under one arm, lips pursed so tight I thought they might disappear entirely. She introduces herself as the president of Maple Briar HOA and says, "Your pool fence is 4 inches taller than the HOA allows." I smile, polite as I can, and tell her, "I appreciate your concern, ma'am, but this isn't Maple Briar. This is my property, not in the HOA." She waves me off, says it doesn't matter because, apparently, if she stands on a stool in her guest bedroom and squints, she can see my fence. Yeah, that's the logic we're working with. I thought that'd be the end of it. Nope. 3 days later, I get an official letter, HOA logo stamped right at the top. Says I've got 30 days to cut the fence down or face escalating fines. I reply, just as official, "Thanks, but no thanks. Not your jurisdiction." I send it off, thinking that's that. But Karen took it as a declaration of war. Next morning, neon orange violation sticker on my mailbox. Peeled it right off, threw it in the trash. Day after, HOA newsletter appears at my door, certain lines highlighted, stuff like non-compliance threatens community values. I'm not even in their community. It gets weirder. She starts organizing these community walks that always end at my property line, like she's leading a pilgrimage to the holy land of HOA grievances. She'd stop, point at my fence, shake her head for dramatic effect, and you could see the neighbors nodding along like an audience in a bad infomercial. I try to laugh it off. But then come the signs, real estate style, planted right along my property, all facing me, announcing violation in big, block letters. When I put up security cameras, the signs vanished overnight. Then came the drones. Not kidding. First time I see it. I'm in the pool, just trying to cool off, and I hear this buzzing. Look up, and there's a little quadcopter hovering, camera pointed straight down at me. And guess who's on her porch with a remote? Karen, waving, like she's directing air traffic at JFK. I waved back with one finger. She flew the drone off. The last straw? Security footage. 2 in the morning, Karen Dodd, dressed head to toe in black, crawling along my decorative berm with a laser level and a notebook, measuring my fence in the moonlight like she's auditioning for some low-budget spy movie. That's when I called the cops, finally. The police came, warned her about trespassing. Her answer? Sue me. for visual contamination of HOA serenity. I couldn't make this up if I tried. The lawsuit was a work of art, claimed I was causing emotional distress to her residents and devaluing property. When I stopped laughing, I got angry. She wanted to use the courts to bully me into following rules that never applied to me in the first place. Well, she picked the wrong target. I've spent my whole career in cybersecurity. Digging for dirt is a job requirement. I countersued. Harassment, trespassing, malicious prosecution. Then I called the best property lawyer in the county. Turns out, he'd beaten Karen's HOA twice already. He said, "Let's go nuclear." So we did. Hired a surveyor, pulled every public record from the last 50 years, got the original Maple Briar development plans, you name it. The gold mine. Turns out my property used to be part of Maple Briar, but the old owner petitioned out in 2006. There's a record in the county archives. Karen should have known if she'd read anything past the first page. But the real clincher came from an email dump my lawyer got through a Freedom of Information request. Found messages from Karen to her board. "We must set an example with the Vale property before others think they're free to do as they please." Another gem. "If we apply enough pressure, he'll comply just to make it stop." You know what I mean? She knew I wasn't under her thumb. She just didn't care. Court day arrives. Karen walks in with her board, all dressed like they're heading to a real estate seminar. Arms full of binders labeled fence violations, property value reports, the works. Her lawyer looks like he needs a drink. I show up with my attorney, a USB stick full of evidence, 2 rolled maps, and an evil little smile. The judge, a woman in her 60s, takes one look at the filings and you can just see her patience evaporate. She asks for the HOA's jurisdiction map. Karen hands over her color-coded beauty. Then the judge asks for the official plat from the county. My lawyer stands up, hands it over, with the word exempt highlighted so bright you could see it from space. The judge reads, looks at Karen, and says, "Why did your HOA attempt enforcement beyond its legal jurisdiction?" Karen tries to launch into a monologue about community standards, but the judge shuts her down, hard. "Did you ever verify whether Mr. Vale's property was in your HOA?" Karen, suddenly less confident, admits she just assumed because it was next door. The courtroom actually snickers. My lawyer presents the emails. When the judge reads the one about applying pressure, she takes off her glasses and pinches the bridge of her nose. "Did you write this, Mrs. Dodd?" Karen sputters, "I was just trying to," but the judge cuts her off. The drone footage is just the kicker. Judge asks if Karen was piloting the device over my yard. She doesn't even try to deny it. 15 minutes later, we've got a verdict. Lawsuit dismissed with prejudice. $28,000 in damages and legal fees to me. A written apology required from the HOA. And, most deliciously, a restraining order banning Karen and her crew from any future contact with me or my property, under threat of criminal charges. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt lighter than air. Karen's face was crimson, her arms wrapped around her binders like she was holding onto the last raft off the Titanic. Her board had vanished. Her lawyer looked like he was updating his resume on the spot. That $28,000 penalty? Biggest in Maple Briar history. Word got around. 2 weeks later, emergency HOA meeting. 3/4 of the residents show up. Agenda: a vote of no confidence in Karen Dodd. The tally wasn't even close. When they announced the results, Karen cycled through denial, anger, and finally this look of total defeat. She stomped out of the meeting, slammed the door so hard the welcome sign fell off. These days, I swim in my pool with not a care in the world. My fence stands exactly as tall as I want it, and sometimes, if the breeze is right, I'll catch a whiff of fresh-cut grass drifting over from Maple Briar and smile. The neighborhood's a lot quieter now. Karen? Last I heard, she's fighting with the city over the height of the bushes outside her condo. Old habits die hard, I guess. But here's the thing. If you think this kind of power trip only happens in movies, think again. All it takes is one person with too much time and not enough boundaries. So what do you think? Was I right to fight back? Was Karen just doing her duty? Or did she cross the line? Drop your thoughts below, because let's be real, every neighborhood's got a Karen, and sooner or later, someone's got to put them in their place. You know what I mean?